Welcome to the Communities of Character podcast, the show that shares rich conversation about character development across different vocations and callings. I'm Jennifer Hogan, and today we're continuing our series on the 11 Principles Framework from character.org. And I am thrilled for you to hear from today's guest. He's a personal friend and a former colleague who's been in education for over 43 years, both in public and private education. Cas McWaters is currently serving as the Chief Academic Officer for Cornerstone Schools of Alabama, and he's impacted many lives, many students through teaching, coaching, and leadership. Listen in to my conversation with Cas McWaters. Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Communities of Character podcast, a place where you can learn about all things character. I'm your host, Jennifer Hogan, and today's guest is a veteran educator and leader, Cas McWaters. Welcome, Cas.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you with us today. I've got to share with our listeners that you and I worked together over 15 years ago. We worked together. We were science teachers in classrooms next door to each other, and then we were able to, a few years after that, serve as administrators together before our paths went separate ways. And would you just share with our listeners a bit about your current context?
Sure. Currently, I'm serving as Chief Academic Officer at Cornerstone Schools of Alabama, and most people don't know what that means. And right now, it's a catch-all. It's almost like a deputy superintendent. I am in charge of the academics for our elementary, middle, and high school, but I just walked back in my office going to looking at some construction that's not going very well too. So, so it's just a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, yeah. Well, since I have a personal and professional experience with you, Cas, I can attest to your personal character and being a role model for students and adults, and just thinking of the formal sense of building a culture of character in schools. Would you share with our listeners how you got involved in character education?
We really, our board chair, Drayton Neighbors, had just written his first book, A Case for Character, which was really designed more for the business community about 15 years ago. And our head of school found character.org and went to the national forum. And so one of our core values is excellence for character. And so this has been a focus. I opened the high school 8 years ago. This has been a focus for Cornerstone Schools for probably 15 years. But when we went to character.org, when I went there probably 8 years ago, that really kind of stimulated my thinking about character. And also I found that coming from public school into private school, that I was really teaching the same way. Now, in a private Christian school, I realized that, hey, I don't have to do that. I can kind of get out of my box. But I'm going to try to leave my comments today for both public and private, but mostly for public school. So when character.org was, we went up there, we were excited about it. We started really implementing a lot of things that we saw. And then, of course, when the Hope Institute came about, Drayton Neighbors, one of the founders of that, is still our chairman of the board. And so that was with Hope Institute is where we really started, I guess, kind of having more of a laser focus on character. It led us to develop our touchstone. We had 12 character words for 15 years, but 5 or 6 years ago is when we said, boy, those aren't workable. Those are just words. That's not something that we can really put into practice, memorize, and it be a part of the culture. I couldn't even remember all 12 words.
Yeah.
And so we really developed the 5 character pillars that we have and the touchstone. And as we'll talk a little later, several things came out of us being at the Hope Institute and listening to the speakers and really, kind of just taking time to, like I said, have a laser focus.
Sure. Well, you mentioned, working with Hope Institute, and I know that Hope Institute uses the 11 Principles Framework from character.org to assist schools through a comprehensive and intentional approach. How has the 11 Principles Framework served you in your work around character education?
I think the biggest thing it's done is it's kind of guided us in being intentional in a character development program.
Yeah.
All stakeholders are now involved in the process. We aren't participating in just activities focused on character development, but character development has become part of our culture. And I think when you look at those 11 principles, it challenges you on that. We just went through our interview for National School of Character. And those 11 principles, when you're filling out an application for State School of Character or National School of Character, you really have to sit there and begin thinking about those principles. Hey, am I really doing this? Is this something we give lip service to? Or is this something that's actually part of our culture? So I believe the 11 principles actually, if you're going to follow those 11 principles, character is going to have to be part of your culture.
For sure. Well, today we're focusing on Principle 7 of the 11 Principles Framework, and that emphasizes intrinsic motivation over extrinsic motivation. And Kaz, you've been in education for a long time as a teacher, a coach, and an administrator, and in all your years of working with young people, what have you seen in the differences between students who are intrinsically motivated versus those who are extrinsically motivated?
Well, when a student is intrinsically motivated, it has whatever you're talking about, it's become part of their fiber, part of their fabric of the actual student. Intrinsic motivation to me is developed from high expectations. Now that can be in a public school, it could be on an athletic field, it could be through your moral development, your maybe spiritual development, or your set of moral standards. And I want to correct something. I think a kind of a falsehood is that many of us in private school think, many of us in public school think, this would be so easy to do in a private Christian school. This would be so easy, but in a public school, it's just terribly hard to do. Character development is taken for granted in private Christian schools. I do accreditations, 2 or 3 accreditations every year for ACSI and Cognia, schools that are dual accredited. And it's very interesting in private Christian schools, when you mention character development, they stare at you.
Huh.
And there is more of an emphasis on character development in public schools than in private schools. I think they think just because they teach Bible class or just because they have chapel once a week, that automatically results in character development. And it doesn't necessarily. But so in public school, we go to it and say, it's tough to do in public school. Not with our students now. Now, I can tell you this. I think character development intrinsic motivation is easier to accomplish now in public schools than it ever has been. And I'm going to base that on students today have the most charitable hearts. If you throw a worthwhile charity out there and say, we really need to support childhood cancer, or we really need to support muscular dystrophy, or hey, we've got a kid here in our community who has Down syndrome and we need to support his school over here. Students today, more than I've ever seen in 43 years of doing this, students today will jump on a charitable project faster than I've ever seen.
Wow.
And it doesn't mean you're having to give out character awards to do it. I mean, just throw the challenge to them. You say, well, that's just a an activity. Well, it's out of those activities that students begin to grow and to see what they're doing, and they develop that, I guess I would say, that moral structure or that foundation. And I've witnessed students raising hundreds of thousands of dollars in 1 year for cancer.
Yeah.
With no extrinsic motivation, not anything, but they jump right on board. Now, is it um, I think, is it kind of a narrow window that you might have for intrinsic motivation? Maybe, but it's up to us to find how to get in that window. Uh, So,
Those are great observations and really interesting points that you make. And, intrinsic, it means come from inside. And so it seems sort of counterintuitive to imply that we can help a student to be intrinsically motivated. And we know that one way to increase students' intrinsic motivation is to make it relevant, with a connection
right.
to real life, to a goal, to a hands-on situation. So could you share with us, like, what are some ways your school has worked to help students be intrinsically motivated to display good character?
Well, one thing that we emphasize, and I think it should be emphasized everywhere, and that is, that your teachers serve as a pattern, as a model for that. We model that.
Yes.
And we model and see the moral fabric. Those students see the moral fabric in our teachers, and they say, I need to be more like that person. Or unfortunately, sometimes they say, I don't think I need to be more like that person. But anyway, we would hope that teachers would model it. We struggled with this several years back, probably in about maybe 2017 or 18. A Bible teacher and I were struggling with how, and this came out of Hope Institute and character.org. How do you measure if your character program is working?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you measure it? And I remember it might have been either the last international forum, or the one before that. So that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I remember stopping by a table there, and this guy had a survey to see if your students had character or not. And I kept looking at that. I thought, buddy, you're missing it. I mean, it was a Likert scale, and this and that and this and that. And I thought he's missed the boat on this. He's really missed it. We had developed this survey. Now, this is what I think, and I've tried to make this to where public schools will benefit from this. We developed a character self-assessment, and I know some of you are going, oh my gosh, they'll put anything. That's what I thought. I thought when we did this, well, we're going to give this character self-assessment, and they're going to blow through it, and maybe we'll get 5% of the kids that are serious about it. Absolutely the opposite. 95% are some of the most in-depth thinking that you've ever seen in your life.
Wow.
We have been blown away by this. And I actually, I hope this is the appropriate place. I have gone through and just grabbed some random ones over the last 2 years. I haven't even gone back beyond that. Just for you to listen.
Sure. Yes, we would love that.
To what has happened. And what we have 5 character pillars: integrity, respect, love, responsibility, perseverance. And so everything that we kind of pattern our character model around revolves around those character pillars. And so 3 times a year, our students take a little brief self-survey, and it may say like, how are you doing with integrity? And it may say, doing the right thing sometimes, doing the right thing most of the time, doing the right thing all the time. And we have 4 indicators for each one of those character words. And then here's the key. So anybody can mark that. But the key is, after each one of those sections, they write one sentence as to how they're doing, or as to why they rated themselves on that. We've had kids write, I'm not doing very good in integrity right now because I've been cheating on my homework. I'm not doing very good in love right now because I'm always mad at people. So that's 3 times a year. Then at the end of the year in high school, and by the way, I did not say this, I apologize, but we do this character survey grades 1 through 12.
Wow.
Now, the first and second graders draw pictures
Okay.
about how they're doing on character.
Yeah.
And then the elementary school students write a few sentences. The middle school students write a paragraph. And then the high school students write a summary, which is normally about page and a half, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then our seniors write a full paper based on looking back at their character surveys from the last 4 years.
Wow.
So they get a large picture. And so what I did, I'm not going to read the surveys to you, but these are the things that we get. This was a graduate last year on integrity. He says, and I'm just pulling excerpts, with me, doing the right thing regardless of who is watching is really like a test to your faith. I changed positively because I was doing integrity for all the wrong reasons, which was for acknowledgement by someone. I can continue to grow in this area by always realizing what's good for your heart and soul for a Christian man. Here's a junior from last year. He'll graduate this coming up. My fall survey showed me that integrity was not the best it could be. The reason I said this is that I only showed integrity sometimes. My spring survey on integrity has shown me that I've improved in this area. I said this because I show it most of the time, and I feel as though I've improved in this area because of the things I've done. An example is that on some of my homework, I used to copy some parts from other people because I feared I would get a bad grade. But I've improved by doing what is right, even though it has not benefited me immediately.
Wow.
So our definition for integrity, for most of us, we always say doing the right thing when nobody's looking.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, several years ago, I did not feel like that was hitting a nerve with our students because they do so much with nobody looking anyway now.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing their games or Xbox, whatever. And I need to insert something right here. We think, I don't know, but we think these kids are so honest because it is confidential.
Mm-hmm.
We do not share. You notice I'm not sharing names. We do not share names. The Bible teacher and I are the only people that look at this. And there's something I think about this generation of students typing on a computer electronically. They just kind of get more real. I don't know if it's because they're used to snapping or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if there's something to do with that, with being, on a computer, and they just kind of open up more. I've got a student that graduated 2 years ago, and he's one of our students that really came in and had some rough edges on him. He said, in the fall of my junior year, I replied to the survey by saying, I respect others when respect is given to me. In this year's spring survey, I answered this question by stating, I show respect because I expect to be respected. There's been a positive change in this aspect of my character. Respect has always been an important value for as long as I can remember. The improvement in this area of my character is found in how I've begun to show respect to all people, regardless of what they may or may not say or believe in. One way I could continue to grow in this area would be for me to respect others in spite of their actions.
Wow. Those essays
These are the type things we're getting.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I totally understand how you could question if they would be sincere in their responses, but it sounds like that y'all are really doing something right there, especially when you keep saying that it's more than just doing character activities, that it is woven into your school culture. And this is just really, really a powerful activity, it sounds like, for y'all. And I love hearing those responses and hearing just how effective it is, because it really does give the kids an opportunity to reflect on their character and build that intrinsic motivation.
Jennifer, let me throw something in here for middle school, so everybody doesn't think, well, that's fine, that's high school, but here I am in middle school. This is a 6th grader.
Okay.
The school year of 2021 has been challenging, but sometimes easy. I've grown in so many ways, like love, because I started to forgive people when they hurt me.
Mhm.
I show respect to all the students and teachers by listening to them and not talk over them. In some ways, I'm not grown in integrity because when my teachers left me to work on my own, I took advantage of that time. I'm not shown responsibility sometimes because I've not turned in or done my work, and I'm sorry to all my teachers for that. If I ever have these teachers next year, I know I will turn my work in and try my hardest. That's a sixth grader.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. It
So I think it's kind of, I mean, I think we've hit on something.
Mhm.
And here's something else that really any grade level could do, middle through high school. We, I think it was Marvin Berkowitz, I think, was speaking at Hope Institute several years back, and he talked about a piece of character being, um, boy, that just left me right there. But anyway, being generational wisdom, passing down generational wisdom, and that how students can learn by, the previous generations and how important that is,
Mhm.
forming their morals. And so I took that, and Matt Swell and I kept kicking it around. And so we require our seniors to do a biography of wisdom. Now, I know I use the word require, so that's extrinsic, but just listen a second. So we require them to do a biography of wisdom where they go interview a senior adult that they respect, many times a grandmother, grandfather, aunt, next door neighbor, somebody, and they write the biography. It's normally a couple of pages. They write a biography, and they ask about that individual growing up, and just their life. They write about their life, and then they ask the question, "What's the greatest lesson you've ever learned?" And what advice would you like to pass on to generations,
Mm.
to future generations? Now, we do something at graduation which would not be feasible for a larger school. But what is feasible is to have kids do like that and then share that wisdom that people would like to pass on to
Wow.
future generations to other students. You could certainly share that in a way. We shared at graduation ceremony, but we're a very small graduating class. But what I found is that a lot of our students, I never will forget this statement, but a lot of our students just haven't ever spent time talking to some of their older relatives. But I never will forget that a girl a couple of years ago told me, she goes, "I have never sat down and talked with my grandmother."
Mm.
She goes, "Because every time we go to grandmother's house, it's on a holiday and she's always in there cooking."
Yeah.
Um, I've had, I had a young man, I'm at Cornerstone Schools of Alabama. We're an inner city school. And I had a young man 3 years ago who's still, he's out now on his own, but he still calls me periodically. And I'll never forget this. He said, "Mr. Rack, I can't." Well, the first day he walked into my classroom, first day of school, I'm up there teaching chemistry. And I said, "Well, y'all tell me something about yourself. I'm being Mr. Positive." And he goes, "I don't like white people."
Mm.
I went, "Okay. Hey, you don't have to like me, but I'm the only chemistry teacher here, so let's just get it done." And I said, "I'm going to respect you. I'm going to earn your respect. Okay? I'm going to earn it, but I'm going to respect you regardless." Now that kid calls me 3 or 4 times a year, and we came up to the biography of wisdom, and he goes, "Mr. Mack, I don't think I can do this." I said, "Why?" He goes, "My grandmother, I mean, like, she'll say whatever. She cannot stand white people." I said, "Well," I said, "I tell you what, you do it, you write and do the assignment, and I'll help you, and we'll look at it together and see what we can get out of it." Because he was very concerned because she was going to be at the graduation ceremony where we recognized her and read part of the biography of wisdom. And coming out of that, he only knew part of his grandmother.
Wow.
What he didn't know was that why she did not like white people, and that how she had changed 2 or 3 years earlier with a relationship with the Lord. And so even he learned, he goes, I didn't know my grandmother had changed. I didn't know this. So there's something there about interviewing that generational wisdom. There's something about that generational character. And Berkowitz was right. It is completely, the way we do it at graduation, it has completely changed our graduation ceremony into a family event rather than just an event for students and board members. Anyway.
That sounds really neat, and I love the thought of generational wisdom, and it really is a great segue to our next question. And I'm really curious to hear your response because I believe it's important to reflect on our own experiences and mentor aspiring and new administrators. And just like the general wisdom that you talk about, I think, questions like I'm about to ask support those who are beginning the journey into leadership and building a culture of character. So the question is, knowing what you know now as a longtime 43-year plus educator and with your experience in character education, what advice would you give to a newer administrator who's trying to build a culture of character in their school?
Okay. Every now and then, I'll be asked to go down and speak maybe at a class or something at university. And I always ask administrators, what is your number one responsibility as a principal? And they always miss it. They'll say academics, some will say athletics, some will say this and that and this and that. And I'll always come back with them and say, your number one job as a principal is to create culture. It's your number one job. And in order to create culture, if you're at a school that I served at for years and years and years, and where we had 25 and 30-year veterans all over the building, you don't have to be very intentional to create culture there. People with longevity, teachers with longevity, where the school has had consistency over the years, culture tends to be established, and buddy, you can ride that wave if it's a good culture. Now, if it's a bad culture, you got to come in and and undo some things. But you must be intentional. Character development does not just happen. I do not believe you can just throw some character words out there, throw some character pillars, have a touchstone, throw some activities out there, and hope it happens. You must be intentional. The way you do that, I think, is by bringing in stakeholders. And let me tell you, in different communities, this is harder to do. I mean, in some communities, it's very difficult to get parents involved. It's very difficult. Parents are working. They don't, have time to get involved. Other communities, sometimes it can be a pain. They're so involved. But anyway, getting parents and students involved, being student driven. This is something that we really had to focus on for our service learning. Is it student driven? Because most of the time, I don't believe that's just something kids come up with. They have to kind of be led in that area. So yes, you got to have your character pillars. Yes, you need your focus, but you got to be intentional. It's got to be something that you work on. It's got to be something that you spend some time on, or you or your character committee spend some time on, and you say, you know what, we're going to get there. If it may be working on one principle, one of the ways that we're intentional is we have 5 character pillars, and so each Monday, our character pillar is responsibility. And each Monday all year on Monday is responsibility. And each Monday we have here again, private school, a scripture verse that talks about responsibility. But it could be a famous saying by an athlete or something. But on each Monday, our character word for today is responsibility and la da 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 da. Each Tuesday, now we have the same character word each day of the week all year, but each month the saying or the scripture changes.
Okay.
So on Monday, responsibility, they're going to get that saying about responsibility for 4 times. Next month, Monday is responsibility still, but it's going to be a different scripture or saying or famous quote or whatever. And we do that 5 character pillars each day of the week. Now our middle school do a character word per month. And so they focus on that. So that to me is an intentional start of the school day.
It is. So our listeners may want to reach out to you for more information about what we've talked about today. You've just given out so much great information. What are the best ways for our listeners to connect with you?
Email preferably.
Okay.
I don't Snap or Face Chat or Snapbook or any of that. So I know it's called something different. That was just a little attempt at humor there, folks. Anyway, my email is CMC Waters, WATERS, at csalabama.org. I would count it an honor and a privilege to talk to you. Love to come visit your school. It has made a difference in our even Christian school. And like I said, most people don't look at it like that.
Yeah.
It will change the environment of the culture of your school.
That's awesome. And I'll be sure to put your email address in our show notes in case anyone wants to reach out to you. And I just want to thank you so much, Cas, for being here today. I have admired your work for a long time, and I appreciate your sharing the exciting and impactful things that are happening in your school. To our listeners, I want to thank you for joining us for this episode, and we hope that you were inspired and got some great ideas from today's discussion. Be sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Thanks again, everyone, and until next time, take care.